This time I have a Pro-Ject Stream Box DS Plus. This is a media streamer to play internet radio and media files from your computer, USB sticks, etc. Overpriced garbage as far as I'm concerned. No info available, no service data, no nothing. These boutique units are just a nightmare when things don't go right. Let's take a look at what walked in the door and see if we can figure it out. I have no idea how this thing works or what the problem with it is. The problem is right there. It's stuck on the boot screen. It's a streaming box. And I guess it's not functional. It's just not doing anything. It just turns on and boots up to the main screen, and that is it. And turn it on and turn it off. Turn it off, turn it back on. Power button works on the remote, so we know the remote's sending a signal. And therein lies the problem. And the fellow that brought it to me, I think he said he bought it and it was like this. I don't even think he ever got it to work. So, yeah, this could be an interesting one. But that's all it does. It just goes to the main screen and nothing else works. None of the buttons on here are doing anything. And I'm sure that this is putting out a signal. Yeah, you can see the signal. You can see the signal blinking away there. Even on the camera with the infrared cut filter in place. Yeah, the power button does turn it on and off, but that's it. Nothing else. None of the other buttons do anything, either on the front panel or on the remote. I wonder if there's a way to reset this. Is there a reset? It's almost like it's locked up. There's got to be a way to reset this thing. I wonder if holding down buttons while plugging it in. We'll try holding down different buttons. I looked in the manual and I did not see anything that said anything about resetting it. So we'll just try holding some buttons down and powering it up, or holding buttons down and plugging it in. And that made no difference whatsoever. Also, I'll pull the top off of it so we can take a look inside and see how this thing's put together. I had one of their CD players a while back, but it was a no-go because I could not get any information on it. That's the problem with these, we call them boutique systems, is that a lot of times there's very, very little information that's available. Everything is very, very vague. Okay, so that's where the display connects. Okay, this whole unit is going to pull through, just like this. And here is the guts to this one. Got the display plugging in down here. You got a interface board. The main board, power coming in here, yeah, it looks like it's been replaced. It's got flux all over it and on the board. I think that chip's been replaced once, and that might be the fault, as we'll find out when I get into this a little further. But now we know what it is. It's an Atmel Atmega 16A. This is a processor. Got a lot of different things in there like DACs, ADCs, and so forth. And this would be the brains that control everything. It's got memory in there. It's got a processor. These are quite the powerful little processors. These were used a lot in the satellite pirating days to create emulators and so forth to circumvent the smart cards in the old DirecTV receivers. A lot of these Atmegas were used. Anyway, that's what that is. But that's going to be the brains to the system. Still trying to figure out if there's a way to reset this. I don't see any reset points on here, any hard resets. I'm convinced that that's a software problem. Obviously, it's a software problem because It's getting to the boot screen and not going any further than the boot screen. So could be a number of different things that's causing this. I'm just looking to see if there's anything obvious, any connectors that are not seated properly and so forth is what I'm looking for. But it could be power supply related. This is going to have regulators on it, so it could be missing a voltage or any number of things. It could be. But without any service data, without any manuals or any service data to this is going to be one that's going to be very difficult to try to get going. I do see a light blinking down here once a second, so I'm assuming that means it's communicating or trying to communicate with something. Maybe we've got lots of communications between the boards. I see one LED flashing. There's another one beside it. That heartbeat, as we call it in the industry, the blinking light, is generally indicating that, well, at least some of the circuit is working. That might be in the Wi-Fi and network side of things too. I mean, I do see a few of these crap caps on here. I don't know that could be causing a problem. A few of them appear to be down in the analog audio circuit. There's a couple on this board as well. I'm going to pull this board out. We'll measure a few of those caps and just see whether there's whether the reading is way off on them. Yeah, it might be a power related issue, right? A power supply that's got too much ripple or something, and it's just not it's not initializing. Anyway, it's an interesting unit, and I'd certainly like to see if I can get it to go. So I guess we'll check the obvious stuff. The obvious stuff being caps. I'm gonna pop this one out, this connector out here, and we'll unplug a few of the other ones that go to various things. Now I should be able to lift this board out. Remove a couple screws. Get that board out of the way. Now I can see this other board. We'll check a few of these surface mounted caps with the good old trusty ESR meter and just see what they look like. .01. I would say that's okay. How about this one? 0.8. That's probably also okay. 47 microfarad at 18 volts. There's another one back here. I'll just measure this one. What does this one say? .03. I think that was probably also okay. And there's a couple on this other board. 2 to be exact, or 3. There's one over here by where the power comes in. So let's measure these ones. 47 at 35 volts, 2.5. That's a little creeping up a bit. 2.5. I can't see that being the culprit though. And that was a 100 at 25 and it's 0.09. So that's fine. Gonna look for and see if I see any thermal, or not thermal, but IC protectors or cutouts. There's a couple buck converters in here. We could have a missing voltage too. That's always a possibility. We can check that though once I get the board remounted. We can look and see what voltages are coming off of these power supply buck converters and so forth. Let's check some voltages. It's turned on now, so I just want to check some voltages here on this regulator. I got nothing on pin 1. I've got 18 volts on pin 2, and I've got 18 volts on pin 3. If I turn it off, I now have 18 volts on this pin. So this is shut the regulator off. I got 0 on that one, and then this source is 18. So this regulator is working. If I turn it off while holding this down, put the power button off, and it goes to 0. Back to 18 volts. So this is turning on and off. We'll check some of the voltages coming off of the other inverters down here. There's a couple of them. .6 volts in this circuit. 5 volts there. Negative 14. This is negative power supply. So that one appears to be working too. We've got negative 14 right in here. So I got negative 14 volts on that one. This one here has got, this one was, I think was 5 volts. 3.2. That's a 3.2 supply there. This one here was 5 volts. I've even been going through with the thermal camera to see if there's anything that looks hot. And of course, the only chips that really have any heat on them is the regulators, which would be expected. One that I did see has a bit of heat on it is the main processor underneath on the second board down. It's running at about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 102, which is probably okay, but something's keeping this thing from initializing. Either we've lost communication, or there's something wrong with the atmel. The atmel is what takes the user interface and sends it down to the main processor. So this takes the key scan from all the buttons here and converts it into a code that understands. It also takes the remote signal from the remote receiver, passes it on down. So it may be a problem on this board here that's at fault. I've got power to it. It has power, but doesn't seem to be doing anything. I'm going to look for data flow when I push buttons and see if there's any data flow between any of the buses. So after probing around the atmel, I'm not even getting any oscillator here. I got no data. I can see when I press the switches, I can see the input to the chip, but there's nothing else. Like there's nothing. There's no clock on here, nothing on this chip. But I know nothing about it. I don't know anything about the program that's loaded on. The chip could be bad. It could have lost its programming. We could have lost signal from one of the other boards. I got no service data on this thing, so I'm going to have to just wash my hands of this one, because without any service data, we don't know what we're doing, right? You don't know what's going on in here. You don't know what the engineers decided or what they've done. This is one of those units that just are very difficult to try to service, especially when you've got something like that just boots up to the main boot up screen, but at this point everything just locks up. I can't find any info on how to reset this thing. I've tried holding down multiple combinations of buttons. I read the owner's manual cover to cover. There's nothing about resetting it. So I just don't know. So I'm just going to send this one back and let the guy that owns it know that I can't find any data on it, and we'll leave it at that.